Welcome back to the studio. Today's video is inspired by a quote from Ben Hogan, which is every straight golf ball is hit by accident. In other words, it's impossible to hit a straight golf shot. He went on to say that every shot you hit will move right or left in the air, therefore you better make sure you can make it go one way or the other. And that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to hit some balls at Pebble Beach for my driver practice today, ocean on the left, quite a wide fairway on the right. So imagine how much more comfortable I will be mentally on this tee, especially in a pressure situation, if I know that the minute I strike this golf ball, it's going to be curving from left to right. That means I can aim almost into the edge of the ocean, knowing that as long as my ball moves 5 yards or 55 yards to the right, that I'm going to have a ball in play. If you're a drawer of the ball on this hole and you have got no other shot available to you, this hole must fill you with complete dread, because if it draws too much or gets a nasty bounce on a draw, the ball's going to be wet. So we're going to look today at the physical ways that we can start to learn how to shape the ball. If you already have a very consistent shape on your golf shot, then all I would advise is you learn to play with it. A lot of people spend a lot of time trying to get rid of their shot or trying to hit straight shots. We hear it all the time in lessons. It is impossible to hit a straight shot. So let's embrace what the ball is doing. If it's doing it too much, for example with a slice, I know it gets weak, it takes a lot of distance off, then perhaps you need to come and get some help in order to reduce that down to a fade or a power fade. If we look at all the best players in the world at the moment, they all hit a shape of shot that we are familiar with. Rory McIlroy hits a draw, Brooks Koepka, DJ Johnson, John Rahm. The vast majority of players these days hit a fade off the tee simply because they are more comfortable with it. There's some physics behind it, because as you hit a fade you add more loft, therefore the club is getting more forgiving. They always say, don't they, in the phrases, that you can talk to a fade but a hook won't listen. And that's very true, because a drawn golf shot, the club face is getting more de-lofted through impact and can create more angry side spin than a fade shot. So my trusted shot is a fade, and obviously I'm going to be practicing it here. And just to show you how much we need to be able to move the golf ball, let's have a little look at one. Here we go. I'm going to aim down the left, as you can see here, almost into the ocean, knowing that it's going to move the other way, which is great. So it starts to the left, and hopefully you can see that on the video it's curving back. But at no point did I feel, or I knew from experience, that that ball was ever going to go left, and therefore I was able to play the shot with a little bit of confidence. So let's get stuck in and get sorted with how we do this, how it's made up. Not complicated, I promise you that. And then hopefully you can take this to the golf course and start just thinking about holes, driving particularly, a bit differently. So let's get stuck into the simple bit of science of how we learn to control the shape of the ball. This is my last shot here, and I've just put the data up for you. Don't get too confused. There's only two elements that are going to control the shape of shot that you hit. And one is the direction of travel of the whole club head. So in this case, we call that the swing path. Where was the swing heading, if you like? The dotted line here represents the center of the fairway, the target line, if you like. So my club, as you can see by the red line here, was passing across the target line from out to in. So that, from where you're looking down the line at me playing a golf shot, out to in is from this side to this side, outside the ball to inside the ball. So the club has to be travelling from outside to in order to put spin on the ball to the right, generally speaking. The other thing that you'll notice down here is that the face of the club was slightly open. What do we mean by open? Funny term, isn't it? It means basically is pointing further right than the swing path was. So think of this as simple terms. If I had a tennis ball and I asked you on a tennis court to put me some side spin on the ball to the right, you wouldn't have any problem at all bouncing the ball, and you'd spin the ball to the right. And if you think about what's actually happened there, you've come out to in, and the blade of the club, in this case the tennis racket, is open or is pointing to the right slightly. You didn't need to quantify that, you just pointed it to the right slightly, and you put some side spin on the golf ball. You guarantee that that ball's going to have some side spin on. Now you don't know exactly how much, Through trial and error, you'll get to know what gives you more spin and what gives you less spin, and that's what the whole of learning golf is about, and elevating your way up the golfing, the ladder if you like, is how well you can control where your ball goes. So that's my last shot there, and you can see that that caused the ball to rotate to the right to the tune of 450 revolutions per minute. Okay, that's going to be a movement on the golf ball of around about half a fairway's width, something like that, maybe 10 yards of movement on the ball from left to right. Enough to put me in a frame of mind of being utterly confident on that tee that I am not going to hit the ball in the water. Now, if we're thinking about the opposite way round, which I'll show you in a second with a few shots, a draw shot. So, draw shot, in order to, in golf, a draw shot is the ball spinning from right to left. So now we couldn't possibly pass the club through the ball that way, we'd have to pass it the other way, in to out, which a lot of golfers struggle with. So, in to out path, and again the club face, I don't want it to be open because that will just hit the ball straight over there. I'm going to have to close the club face slightly and put some spin on this way if I wanted to hit a tennis shot with spin on going in the other direction. So we begin to build up a picture, hopefully not too complicated, that the only two things we need to have control over in order to have a clue where our ball's going to go is the swing path, the path of the club through the ball, and the angle of the club face at the point of hitting it. Now, interestingly, the swing path is really, really easy, and we don't even have to think about that. You'll notice when I hit the shot, I aimed to the left of my target. So I aimed it down the water's edge in the Pebble Beach analogy. That means I'm guaranteed now, if my swing follows the line of my feet, to be hitting to the left of the target. So that was sorted out before I even took the club away. So the only thing I need to focus on when I hit a golf ball is controlling the club face through impact. Okay, that's not that easy, but it is something that we can get to terms with pretty quickly if that's the only variable that we've got. Now, which part of the body controls the club face? I can show you here. There's only one, and that is the whole forearms, if you like. Your arm rotating this way, think of your watch moving, will determine what angle the club face is at when it hits the golf ball. So if I rotate my forearm to the right, obviously the club face opens. If I rotate my forearm to the left, the club face closes. Now, unfortunately, we have been given through nature the ability to move the club through round about 200 degrees with that movement. And we know that we only want the club round about 3 or 4 degrees open, something like that. So those movements are fairly micro, and they are based basically on feel. You're going to have to get a feel for it as you come through the ball. But that doesn't take long, and I can promise you that if you know what you're doing, so if you're aiming left and you're trying to come through the shot with the face slightly open, in other words, under-rotated, you can start to build up a fairly good picture of where the ball's going to go. Yes, the first few you do might slice too much, but we can tinker with it and you'll learn as you go. And it's the same with a draw. So let's have a look at a couple of shots the other way round, and you can then use that information to perhaps come in here or go to the practice ground, go to the driving range and start to learn to have control over your own golf ball. Okay, so back on the practice tee, we're now on the 9th hole at Pebble Beach, the ocean's on our right. Let's just go through the process for hitting the ball the other way. So it's going to now bend in the air from right to left, away from the ocean, which is going to give me a lot of confidence. So we know from earlier the club head, the path of the club, the swing path has to be passing to the right of the target, in to out this is known as, but we also know that that's quite scary because that's where the ocean is. We know the club face has to be closed at the point of impact, that's done by the forearms, through the golf ball to put some spin on it. Same as you would with a little tennis shot, you'd put some spin on it this way, and we'll do it with a golf ball. So I'm going to take my aim to the right of the target. That means I've sorted out my swing path already, don't have to think about that. All I have to think about is getting active through the impact area with my forearms to put some draw spin on the ball, and this is what this would look like. Okay, off she goes down the right, hits the left half of the fairway. At no point was I in any danger of getting that ball wet or having to reload. Now, I prefer to play the ball the other way, and the way you're going to find out which is your preference is simply through practice. So next time you go to the driving range or you borrow the studio here, don't just spend your time trying to hit the ball straight towards a target. It is impossible to do, for a start. And secondly, you need to start elevating your learning to find out what is your best route to getting the ball around the golf course. So play some shots that deliberately move left to right by coming across the ball with the face open. Play some shots where you experiment to move the ball from right to left and see where you end up and what you can perform most regularly and get some control over. Now, there's no doubt that playing a draw shot is often considered the holy grail in golf, and it is harder. I think there's more actions that have to be done. You have to swing from in to out for a start, and not a lot of people do that naturally. Secondly, we have to be confident enough to rotate the club face, and for most people who start golf, their natural attributes are the club comes across the ball anyway, and they learn to leave the face open because tension in the forearms and things generally prevents the release and rolling of the club. So it could be that you've got the semblance of a starting motion for a fade anyway. You may need some help from us to guide you in terms of making it less weak or something that's more reliable for you. But don't waste too much time on the range trying to perfect a straight golf shot. I promise you it's a waste of time. So I would probably stand here on this hole knowing that my strength is a fade, and even though I can play the draw, as you can see there, I'd probably still aim up the left side of the fairway and fade this one back to the middle like I normally do. So I'm aiming left of the target. I know now my club's going to pass left through the golf ball. I just need to make sure the face is slightly open through impact and we'll hit a nice fade. There she comes. Down the left edge, I should say, and then fading right back onto the middle. And just through years, obviously, of practice for me and trial and error, I know that that's a shot I have got a very high percentage chance of repeating, especially under pressure, especially on a tight golf course where I know what's going to happen. If you're the sort of player who stands up to the tee and doesn't quite know what's going to happen, then this video is going to be really good for you. And if you need some help getting through it or advising you along the way, then come and see me or one of the boys and it will get you to a stage where you're starting to gain some control over the ball. Same goes with irons. I just showed you with the driver because it's often the one where we want to get the ball in play. And on that, as a last note, I'm just using my tennis analogy again. I just want to sort of point out, I guess, from lessons that there's a lot of people trying to hit the ball very hard and very far with driver. I'd like you to start thinking about the driving golf as the second serve in tennis. It's all very well to hit a first serve that's a winner, but the second serve is the one that you need to be able to rely on to get the ball in play and to continue to compete for the point. And it's the same in golf. We only get one go at a drive. We don't get two like tennis. So your drive is literally a functional shot. You can't hold the ball very rarely from off the tee. So it's mainly to get it in play. It allows you to play the hole, to start playing your shots towards your handicap. The biggest and quickest way, as you will all know, of blowing a score is by not being able to get the ball in play off the tee. The hole is over. Even if you have to give up 20 or 30 yards, I think we'd all do that to have the ball in the centre of the fairway every time. And this gives you some idea today as to how to start to be able to manage your game so that the ball is in play for you more often. So I'd love to help you through this, and come and see me or come and hire the studio out, come and get a feel for this, and let me know how you get on. I'll be interested to see. Thanks for watching.